Hi, welcome to this episode of Bazi for Career Development and Success. I'm Janet Yong, and in today's episode, I'll be sharing with you how we can utilize the Bazi time-tested system in terms of investigating the structure, or under the Asian personality profiling system, the orientations, to basically understand what motivates us, as well as what are the skill sets that we should utilize to build and be successful in our career. We'll start off with the action orientation or wealth structures. There are basically two different kinds of profiles within the wealth structure. The first is basically the direct wealth or director profile under the Asian personality profiling system, or what we call 正财. The other profile is pioneer, or what we call indirect wealth or 偏财. So if you do like this particular series that I'm sharing with you on Bazi in the YouTube channel, please remember to subscribe, like the video, as well as click on the notifications bell so that you can receive a reminder when I upload a video on a weekly basis. So let's start with the lesson proper right now. So before we begin, as usual, please do remember to download your Bazi chart from bazicalculator.janetyong.com or scan the QR code that's actually shown on the screen right now, or the link that I'll be including in the video description as well. So when we're looking basically at a Bazi chart, how do we tell whether a person is of the wealth structure? So most times what we look at is actually the month that the person is born in the month pillar. So here you will see either a IW or a DW. So basically if you see an IW or DW, generally they are the wealth structure. This is the simplest way of understanding it. What about if you are not born on the day of a wealth structure? Like in the next example. So this person, Yin Water, is basically born in the month of IR, or what we call the resource month. But however, this person will also go through wealth luck cycles, like I mentioned in my earlier videos. So in this case, for this person will also be basically going through the wealth cycle in terms of the 22-year-old luck cycle, as well as the 32-year-old luck cycle of IW, which is the pioneer profile influence, and DW, which is the director profile influence. And again, at 52 and 62. So in today's episode, what I'll be sharing with you would be basically the characteristics actually of both the director as well as pioneer, or what we call direct wealth or indirect wealth. So when the influences are within your natal chart, it is basically stronger. It is what you would like to develop in the longer term. But if it appears within your luck cycle, then these particular influence could be there if it is for the year, within the year itself, the skill sets that you need to pick up, or within the 5-year or 10-year luck cycle that it's appearing. So generally, like what I've shared all along in the other videos, whether you like it or you do not like it, the influences will come. So the best is basically to pick up the skill set so that it helps you move forward and be successful in your career. Now, to aid my clients in terms of understanding the Bazi system a lot easier and apply it within the corporate environment when we're looking at career development, I basically wrote the books on Being Happy and Successful series, the first two of which was published by JYPQ. I would like to thank JYPQ Publishing Sendiri Berhad for supporting me all these years. And here, basically, I adapted the traditional Bazi system into what we call the Asian personality profiling system, so that it's easier for corporates to understand, as well as to build for team engagement as well as teamwork. So let me just share a little bit more on this. If not, then you can also watch my other videos on the Asian personality profiling system for a better understanding. In this particular system itself, we first talk about knowing yourself, which I'll share with you what it entails later. So in the first part of this video, basically we'll talk about understanding yourself from a orientation perspective or the action orientation perspective in this episode. Then in the later part of the episode, we'll talk about understanding others. Now, you will understand that we do not live on an island alone. Basically, to succeed in our career, we not only need to understand ourselves, we need to understand and communicate well with others as well. In a recent coaching session that I had, one of the first criteria of the person to be able to be promoted is visibility. So what does visibility mean? Visibility actually means the perception of others about you. So if you are not able to communicate well with others, project a positive image, then you're not able to manage others' perception of you. So therefore, in order to be successful in career, not only do you need to understand yourself, work hard, be committed in building your skill sets, you also need to learn to communicate and manage others' perception of you. So let's go on to the Asian personality profiling system, in which I shared in another video that we will usually investigate it from three particular ways. One, it's basically the day master, understanding what intrinsically you like to do in terms of job role. Then two, which is orientation in terms of the work environment and the kind of job role as well that you will perform well in. So the third one is utilizing the Bazi system. I adapted it into the JYPQ 4 quadrants chart. And in here, one of the key things you need to look at when building your career is basically the base profile, or what it's the obvious profiles in the yellow quadrant, which I'll share a little later. Before we can do that, you can download the Pulse mobile app, search for Pulse by Trilogy, either in Google Play Store or Apple Store to download and get your profile, or you can scan the QR code in this video that I show here. Once you download the Pulse mobile app and key in the information, you basically get the day master, your orientation, as well as the JYPQ chart that I mentioned earlier. So for today, we will zoom in on the Janet Yong profile quadrant system. So when you get this particular JYPQ chart, either in the Pulse mobile app, or if you get the career profiling report on page 5 and 6 of the career profiling report, you will see the profile that is actually within the red rectangle. So in this case, if we were to use the base profile of director, okay, which is 正才, or pioneer, since we're talking about the action orientation profiles in this episode, you basically will then work on what motivates you, as well as how you can build your skill sets to be successful. Now, it's also crucial for us to understand what motivates the action-oriented profiles of director and pioneer. The director is basically results-oriented, straightforward, and practical. So generally, they are motivated by clear rewards and recognition system and how they can achieve these targets fairly. And they are not motivated by the situation being too ambiguous and too many changes in their work environment. Remember, the director is an implementer and they generally like things to be going on clockwork and may not necessarily like too many changes. Then the next one, it's basically the pioneer profile or 偏才. They are open-minded, risk-taker, and sociable. For them, having the independence and being in control to create new markets, deliver results, start new projects is what they like. So if you are a pioneer profile, look for a job role that allows you to do this. And they are definitely not motivated when there's too much rigid rules and regulations and systems that does not allow them to independently make decisions and suggest new ideas or implement new things. Let's then move on to look at each of the profiles. What are the suitable job roles and what are the skill sets that they can look at to build in order to be successful in their career and in the longer term. For a director profile or 正财 or direct wealth, the inherent talent is effective implementation, routine driven as well as prudent. And therefore, in terms of job roles, what they are suitable roles that allow them to implement, such as in operations, in enforcing, in terms of implementing things, restructuring, as well as implementers. So any kind of job role that allows you to perform these tasks, you will generally enjoy it. But no one basically is born an implementer. You generally have a tendency to perform better or have a tendency to like to implement things. So therefore, the 3 skill sets that we can start off for a director profile would be that of goal setting. Why goal setting is important? Because they are driven by achieving tasks, achieving a milestone. So if you are very good at achieving milestones in terms of setting and prioritizing your goals, you would naturally perform better in your job role. The other thing is, if you remember, they are very good at conservation in terms of cash, in terms of savings. Therefore, learning financial management skills will aid them as well. And why is project and time management important for them? For them, basically because they are task masters, usually they may not necessarily let go that easily. So at times, they will be working so hard, either for money or trying to accomplish certain tasks that they set for themselves, that they become overwhelmed with things. So therefore, having and learning the skill set of project or time management will help them prioritize and do better in their work. The next profile we'll talk about is the pioneer profile or indirect wealth 偏财. The inherent talent of this particular profile is basically being resourceful, have business acumen, and they are multitaskers. So for them, usually they would enjoy job roles that are involved in starting something new, like entrepreneurship, or if they are working in a corporate environment, entrepreneurship is the latest term. They are good leaders, big picture thinkers. So job roles that allow them independent decision making and action taking is something that we'll usually enjoy. So whether you're going through a luck period of pioneer or indirect wealth, or you actually have got the indirect wealth or pioneer profile as a base profile or wealth structure, this is something that you should try and target to do because you will naturally excel and do well in these roles. So what are the 3 skill sets that they should at least build? The first one is entrepreneurship. Basically, trying to sell and managing a business is totally different. Managing a P&L in a big company and managing a P&L within your own small company startup or a startup is totally different as well. So learning entrepreneurship skills, because the pioneer profile have a tendency to focus more on the top line or revenue and may not necessarily manage on the bottom line profit or cash flow well, this is something that they need to learn. The second is, since they are great at big picture thinkers and at times delegating out, so leadership skills will be great for them to pick up in order for them to identify the few good men or the few good women who can basically help them succeed in their role or in their business. So similar to the director profile, goal setting and especially prioritizing is important. Remember, they are great business acumen and multitaskers. So they may have a tendency to start too many projects and may not follow through. So by setting goals or learning how to delegate and prioritize them, it will definitely benefit them in achieving their goal that they set in the longer term to help themselves. Now, remember I mentioned earlier, when we look at actually an individual, it's not really about just knowing yourself. In order for us to succeed in this world, be it in a big organization or doing well in your own business setup, you naturally need to work with people. And in order to work with people and communicate and influence them, especially if you're delegating them tasks, it's understanding them, understanding their perspective, and learning to communicate with them. That's the reason why in my latest book, I actually talked about not only knowing yourself and managing yourself, but also understanding others. In my latest book on being happy and successful, the second edition on managing yourself and others, I shared in chapter 3 on understanding our boss. Basically, like I mentioned earlier on, understanding others is crucial, but managing and understanding our boss, especially in a corporate and career development perspective, it's crucial because they are the ones who will recommend and suggest whether you can be promoted, and they will be the ones who will be doing a performance evaluation to train you and develop you on the skill sets that you should be working on in order to do well. So let's look at the leadership style and decision-making pattern of the action orientation leaders. I will share all the other profiles as I go along in the next few video episodes. So let's start off with the director profile. Now, if you have a boss that it's basically a director profile or the direct wealth structure, generally they are very authoritative. They prefer to take charge and tell others what should be done. They have very clear and fair and just systems and will honor their word. However, the action orientation bosses are usually a little bit more impatient and short-tempered. So when communicating with them, they only want to know the pros and cons before making a decision. They may not necessarily want to know what we call in Mandarin 来龙去脉, or the ins and outs of why the story started. So if you're an artist profile, analyzer profile, a process profile, you may find these a little bit difficult to get used to. But reading the cues, or if you have their date, month, and year of birth, then you can basically chart out what kind of profile they are. So going into a meeting and just going straight to the point, presenting the pros and cons are important to get them to support you in whatever decisions that you want to make. And before going in to properly present, I think it's good to test out their thoughts and get their buy-in, because they do not like to waste time when you're actually presenting them a proposal. What about that of the pioneer profile? The pioneer profile is basically, like I mentioned earlier, open-minded, more sociable, and a risk taker. So they often start by looking at the vision, the dream, and they will drive and motivate a team with transformational leadership. They have the ability to inspire others, get everybody to work towards a common goal. So therefore, if they are looking at vision and driving towards accomplishing something new, as well as transformational leadership, so they need courage from their team members. So if you have a boss that is pioneer and you are too conservative, that may not work well for you. They also prefer honesty and you being upfront with them. So ensure you put in the needed effort to at least take some kind of risk, okay? Or if you are not and you're managing a team, get someone who is actually great at doing this while you look at the long-term strategic plans. So that's how you work well and manage upwards with your superior. In the same book, I also talk about understanding colleagues in chapter 4 and basically understanding subordinates in chapter 5. If you like to understand yourself even more, you can basically get our complete Bazi career profiling report at this link that I'm showing here, or scan the QR code. Right now, there's a promotion for this report. Instead of the usual 117.99 Sing dollars, it's only going for 49 Sing or US $36. I'll be having this link in the video description itself. I hope you enjoyed the video episode that I just shared on the action orientation profiles of wealth structure, on what motivates them and what you can do to basically build up your skill sets for better career advancement and development. Even if it is actually during a single luck cycle or single year, you can still pick up the skill sets because they will come in handy when you are trying to develop your career in the longer term. So if you do like this series, please do remember to click on the subscribe button on my Janet Yong YouTube channel. Click on the notification bell so that you will receive a reminder whenever I upload videos, as well as like and share this video if you find that it useful for yourself or your friends, and share it with them as well. I'll see you in the next episode where I'll be talking about the process, or what we call the influence structure. Thank you and see you in the next episode.